Hello gainers, I'm Ralphie and welcome to my channel called Fitter Philosophy. I'd like to introduce the first book that I ever wrote, and it's called Search for a Whisky Bothy. And the reason I wrote it was that I was celebrating 10 years as an online whisky reviewer, content creator on YouTube, and I made a casual, flippant passing remark about how interesting the journey had been over the last 40 years getting into whisky and tasting all the different whiskies over the years and finding some absolute beauties, phenomenal experiences. And a few of my fans casually mentioned, hey Ralphie, you should write a book about this. And when I just thought about it, I decided, this is the opportunity that I've been waiting for to actually fulfill one of the ambitions in my life, which is to write a book. And I can probably do it now because within the last few years, and this is 2019, literally within a few years previously, self-publishing became available, so you could bypass publishing houses. Now, this is the book. It is a narrative. It's what's called a first-person, present tense narrative, which is a very simple and communicable way of writing a book. So I am the narrator and the author. Right, so there's no separation, and I'm saying, right, back in these, when I was 4 years old, I raided my dad's drinks cabinet, so that's the historical part, and I say, and then here's what happened next when I grew up, and at that point I move into the present tense and narrate it. From the point of moving into Glasgow to buy a flat in a place called Partick, to going into a local bar and buying a beer, and at the same time as buying a beer, being offered a whisky, Bunnahabhain 12-year-old single malt it was, I remember it very well, and being able to graphically describe what was in the whisky and not rushing to knock it back or throw ice in it or put Coca-Cola in it. And this got the attention of people who were in the bar, including people who worked in the Scotch whisky industry, and we got talking, and the rest, as they say, is history. It's all in this book. The first book I wrote because I'd never written a book before, and I knew I had to self-publish, so I had to find, first of all, I had to find an editor, then I had to find a book formatter, which puts a formatter is someone. The editor is someone who goes through your book and sorts out the grammatical errors, some punctuation errors, they check your spelling, and they question if there's something that doesn't line up. In other words, if you've given one character two separate names at different parts of the book, things that would cause confusion, a good editor can pick up on that. My first editor I hired on Fiverr.com, and it was an absolute disaster. She was a school teacher in Florida who was clearly going through the motions and simply went through my book with a red pen and scored out entire paragraphs because she said the quote-unquote too wordy. And I'm looking at what she scored out, and it's absolutely disrupting. As the writer, it's disrupting my narrative and continuity. These paragraphs were in there for a reason, because they were linking one section to another. And so I just edited it myself, which is a big mistake, because an author's too close to the book, and when an author is editing their own book, they walk right past or read right past blaring errors and do not even notice them. And this happens regularly. So I end up self-editing, and I hired a retired civil servant to format the book for me, and he basically scrunched it all up as compressed as possible with no gaps between the paragraphs. And so my first run self-publishing was 840 books. With these books, I'm reading it, because your writer has to read their own work all the time before you really let it go. And I realised, oh no, I've really screwed this up. What am I going to do next? So I bought a rubber stamp, a customised rubber stamp on eBay saying thank you for buying my book, and then I signed underneath it. So I signed all 840 copies of the book, and then I sold them all to a whisky auction house, who then partnered the book with a bottle of whisky they were selling and added just £10 onto the price of the whisky. So they all sold out, and to that auction, I'm eternally grateful for the opportunity they gave me for doing that. The irony is, of course, the first book, out of all the shambles, is the collectible edition, really, because it says first edition on it. The second edition was an improvement. I got a second editor who was significantly better, and it was actually a member of my archery club who's majored in English literature, and she re-edited the book and greatly improved it and sorted the spelling mistakes out. And at this point, I just felt much more confident about it, but what was missing was the book cover. So I altered the book cover a little bit to make it a bit more commercially proper, and put the book out there for a couple of years, and it sold really, really well. I was delighted, because the feedback I was getting is that I kept it simple, I kept it narrative, I had a clear, concise story. The story's all there in my head. I write it down beforehand as a précis, as a resume, and then basically, so long as the next line is in my head, you can just go ahead and write the book, and you do it at a steady pace, you don't rush it. And then at that point, I thought, more people are buying my book, I need to give it the professional presentation. So I went online and did more research, and I got a book cover designer called Humble Nations. His name's James, and he designs book covers. So there's the book cover. In my opinion, I gave him a mental idea of what I was looking for, and when he came back with this image, it actually surpassed my expectations. And for the cost of a professional book cover designer, they're really well worth it. I highly recommend Humble Nations. You'll easily find them online, and ask for James. He really knows his business. So at this point, I changed the layout inside slightly to make it black and white, and you can see there's lots of space between, and the words are larger than your average commercial book. And there's a simple reason for this. I need glasses to read, and I want to read a book where I don't have to squint. I'm the writer, I'm the publisher, I have control over that. The book is what I want it to be. So there you have the clear layout and the separation of paragraphs. Very important. A book's writing should be kindly to the reader and help the reader read. It's as simple as that. I go into bookshops now, and I see professionally published books, and I see that the spine doesn't add up. I never noticed these things. I'm never even aware of these things, but I know about them now. The spine doesn't measure up. The book cover comes in short, slightly short. I open a book up. This is professionally printed books, and the paper's super thin. It's kind of beige colour. It's really cheap paper, and it doesn't. A book should feel something substantial, even a paperback. And bear in mind, particularly if you're in the UK, when you publish a printed book, whether paperback or hardback, there is no value added tax on it. Therefore, your margin of profit is higher per book. Bear that in mind. This is the fourth edition? Excuse me a second. Again, when I bought my IBSN numbers, the ISBN number, the International Standard Book Number, there it is, the top there. I made sure I bought a whole strip of them. I bought 10 for about £100. And this is, by the way, the third edition. So this is the current edition, third edition. And so I have full legal control over it. There is a worry by authors that if they don't have a professional publisher with lawyers, they may get sued for libel. But frankly, it depends how libelous you want to be. Personally, I like to avoid these things, so I avoid saying stupid libelous things. And also bear in mind, if someone wants to sue an author for the content of their book, or sue a publisher, or even both, they've got to have an absolutely clear-cut case for it. Because the costs of civil litigation in a court of law are extremely high. One of the best things to do is at the front of your book, where you have all rights reserved, no reproduction, copy or transmission of this publication, etc., etc. I've added here, whilst some characters in this book are in fact real people, some have had descriptions and names changed to protect privacy. Some characters and places in this book are fictitious, and there is no attempt indeed to misrepresent an individual or an organisation known or unknown to the author. Now, this is me, frankly, covering my ass. The book is a whisky journey. That's what it is. It's a whisky story. It costs £12. I've not put my prices up in over 5 years. And it's just an entertaining, great read if you're into whisky. That's my first book. Thanks for watching.